If you've hired a marketing agency before and you didn't make money, there are only 3 reasons why you didn't get the result you want. Either the agency isn't good at marketing, your law firm isn't good at sales, or you're both not good at marketing and sales. My name is Bradman Rock, and I've helped legal firms achieve a 10 times return on marketing. And I know other firms who've barely broken even. In this video, I'll show you how to know if the agency was the problem or if your business is the problem, and what things you must do to get consistent instructions whether you hire an agency or do it yourself in-house. So how do you know that the marketing agency is a problem? There's only really 2 reasons why marketing fails for legal firms. If your agency isn't able to generate any leads at all, whether that is unqualified or qualified leads, then of course you know that marketing is a problem there, and that's probably because they just don't know what they're doing, hence why they haven't been able to get the leads in for you. Now, the second reason for failure is just not having a good enough feedback loop and implementing it. What I've seen time and time again is when communication breaks down between people who are contacting the leads and people who are generating the leads, if there's no back and forth feedback, then that's when you have an issue of generating leads that are unqualified. And the reason that normally happens is because the sales team, the people who are calling the leads, they give extremely vague feedback to the people who are doing the marketing. So the sales people will say, oh, the leads are just bad quality. Then the marketing agency is just trying to change things without knowing the real reason behind the root cause of the problem, which just makes the whole thing not work. Let me share the story of how I first found this out. So a while ago, we were working with a firm and we were generating leads for them, and they were happy with the number of leads being generated, but the business owner would tell me that the leads were unqualified. So I'd have a conversation with them, they'd let me know the leads were unqualified, and I'd ask them important questions as to, okay, what about these leads are unqualified so we can change the marketing to make sure that they are qualified for you? And the reason for this was that the business owner's sales team, the people who were actually calling the leads, when they would call the lead, they would have the conversation with the lead, and all they would feed back to the business owner is that the lead isn't good. And then the business owner then feeds back to me that the lead isn't good. And then what happens is the person on the call, they may feed back a very tiny piece of information, and the business owner, they may forget a little piece of that information. And then what we end up having is the person who's actually on the phone, they would actually know why that particular lead was unqualified, but they've fed back the information to the business owner. The business owner has now fed that information back to myself, and then in between, some information has been lost in the gaps, and as a result, I'm hearing that the leads aren't good, but we don't really know why the leads aren't good. So to fix that problem, we then had a meeting between myself, the business owner, and all of their team members. And that then helped me pinpoint the reason as to why the leads were unqualified. Because then when questioned, one of the team members was actually able to give a very detailed explanation as to what they were seeing with the majority of the leads. And now that I was hearing that directly from them, we could then change the ads to suit, and as a result, we started getting the more qualified leads through the door. Having that conversation with the business owner's sales team was very helpful. But to take things a step further, what we did is we decided to record every single sales call that those leads had. Now, I've spoken to many law firms, and for most of the law firms that I've spoken to, hardly anyone actually records the sales calls. So they don't actually know the conversations that their team is having with the leads. Now that we're recording these conversations they were having with the leads, we were then able to actually listen back to those calls and understand if a lead is really unqualified or not qualified, what makes them unqualified or not qualified, and we were then able to use that to help fuel our initial marketing to get better results and better qualified leads. So it all worked in a circle because we can now adjust our messaging based off of the conversations that we were having recorded, and not just going off of what their sales team may say, but we actually had the transcripts of the call recordings. However, when we started recording the calls for this particular firm, we came across another problem which is quite common across most firms that we've worked with. And the issue is that most firms don't have a dedicated sales team or a dedicated sales process for when leads come through. And this moves on from the point where marketing is a problem, but to the actual business, the actual law firm, their sales process and their sales team is a problem. Because what we see happen is that the salesperson would answer the phone, and every person who answered the phone would say something different to the other people. So even though the marketing was solved, we now had a whole nother problem with the actual sales process not being dialed in. And after raising this issue to the business owner, it then became clear that the business owner hadn't actually given the sales team a proper process to follow. They didn't really need to have a clear sales process in place because most leads that came through we're just ready to pay them for the service straight away because they were referred by another person. But when it comes to cold traffic and generating leads off the internet, we don't have that same situation because the leads that are coming through, they weren't referred by a person who they already trust. They just saw the ad, they clicked on the ad, they became a lead, and now your team is talking to them. So the way in which you have to handle that lead must be completely different. So that requires having a sales process and a sales script to actually deal with that. So because of this, we started developing training for the team that will be calling leads on behalf of the law firm. That way, when they call the lead, they actually know how to handle objections and they can follow a clear process to make sure that as many leads turn into instructions as possible. This is extremely important because it's what aligns marketing with sales. So when you have a good marketing team that knows what they're doing and knows how to close a fast feedback loop and implement that data, and you then have a sales team who's calling the lead and actually knows how to get cold traffic leads to turn into warm people and therefore into instructions, once you have the two put together, that is how you get firms that can get a 10 times return on their marketing. If you're looking at what's been said so far and you're uncertain whether your agency was the problem or your business is the problem, you can click the link in the description below to check if you qualify for a free audit, where we'll review your firm and give you actionable insights on how to align your marketing and sales to get more instructions. Alternatively, we have loads of videos on this channel dedicated to helping law firms scale, so you can give those a watch as well.